Last time, the story left off with the king of Qin caught in a terrible crisis. In the ancestral shrine, the monstrous blue ox demon unleashed a wave of hellfire, burning the king's soul to ashes and leaving countless guards dead or wounded. Just when all hope seemed lost, the old chancellor offered a desperate suggestion. The king should personally go to the Sen, temple of the mysterious lady, 10 miles outside the city, and pray for divine help. Like grabbing a lifeline, the king immediately gave the order. "Quick, prepare my carriage. We ride for the temple of the mysterious lady." The king was truly panicked. Gone was his imperial dignity. He personally urged the servants to make haste. Eunuchs and maids scrambled to draw a bath of scented water. But the king barely noticed the heat as he rushed through. A hasty rinse and changed into the plainest of robes. He was going to purify himself. After all, and sincerity was what mattered most. The royal kitchen had just brought out a steaming imperial meal. But the king waved it away. "Take it back. Today, I'll drink only cold water. The gods heed the pure of heart." With an empty stomach and cold wind biting at his face, the king led a group of dusty, dazed ministers out of the scorched ancestral shrine, heading straight toward the temple of the mysterious lady south of the city. Under normal circumstances, this 10-mile trip would take only moments in the royal chariot. But now that very chariot had been seized by the ox demon. The king had no choice but to go on foot. Spoiled by years of luxury, he stumbled along the rough road, panting and sweating profusely. The ministers fared no better. Thorns tore their robes. Hats sat crooked on their heads. They looked more like a pack of refugees than high-ranking officials. At last, in the distance, a grand and solemn temple appeared, shrouded in a gentle, peaceful glow, a stark contrast to the fiery sky behind them, where the palace still burned. The king's spirit was instantly lifted. With no thought for grace or ceremony, he scrambled up the temple steps and stumbled through the gate. Inside, the air was thick with lingering incense. At the center stood a statue of the mysterious Lady of the 9 Heavens, her face solemn, yet compassionate, eyes full of divine mercy as though watching over all living things. In front of her was a bare offering table clearly. The demon's rampage had scared away the people. With their homes in danger, who had the courage to come light incense? With a heavy thud, the king dropped to his knees on the cold mat. Tears streamed down his face. Snot dripped freely, he cried with raw desperation, beating his chest as he wailed, "Mysterious Lady, Holy Mother who saves those in suffering, please open your eyes and see. Some foul ox-headed demon appeared from who knows where, took over my palace, destroyed my kingdom. It took on my form and defiled my royal harem, cast my noble queen into the cold palace. And just now, it unleashed a blaze that slaughtered my guards, left corpses everywhere. I have nowhere left to turn. Please, I beg you, show mercy, manifest your power, drive this monster away. If you can bring peace back to Qin, I vow to rebuild this temple, craft a new golden statue, and offer incense to you for generations to come. Please, I beg you." As he spoke, his forehead struck the ground again and again, thud, 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 until it turned bruised and purple. And then something strange happened. Who knew whether it was true devotion, or just how loud he was crying? But all of a sudden, the statue began to glow. A soft radiance of 7-colored light shimmered around it, illuminating the entire temple. A fragrant breeze swept through the hall. From within the light, there came the soft chime of jade ornaments and a voice cool, commanding, tinged with sorrow. Though it seemed to come from beyond the heavens, it echoed directly inside everyone's hearts. Sigh, O king, this disaster was written in your fate. That creature is no ordinary beast, it is the divine blue ox. Once the mount of the grand supreme elder, its nature was never tamed, and its powers are vast. It descended to the mortal world on its own and caused this chaos. How could mere mortals like you ever hope to defeat it? The king went pale with fear. It's Lord Lao's ox, then? Then what's to become of my kingdom? Of my queen? Is it all over? The voice replied, calm and measured. Do not despair. Your sincerity has moved me, and since this concerns the fate of a kingdom, I shall descend myself to deal with this monster. But the voice paused, then continued. This ox is powerful. To defeat it, I will need help from within the palace. Your queen, though trapped in the cold palace, is brave and clever. She is the key. The king and his ministers looked at each other in confusion. Help from within? The queen was imprisoned. What could she possibly do? The voice spoke again. Return to the ancestral shrine. Lock the doors and do not come out, no matter what happens. I have a plan. As for the queen, there is a disused dog hole in the cold palace wall, partially blocked with bricks, but still passable for small objects. You must send a loyal and clever servant to pass this to her. A flash of rainbow light shimmered, and a tiny object, neither gold nor jade, engraved with ancient runes, landed in the king's palm. Give her this token, the talisman of the mysterious lady. Tell her, when she sees the sky fill with rainbow light, that is the sign of my arrival. At that moment she must shatter this talisman against the ground. It is both a signal and a shield. When it breaks, my power will surround her and keep her safe. Do not forget. The king held the still warm talisman in his palm like it was a sacred elixir. His whole body trembled with excitement and awe. Yes, yes, I shall carry out the goddess's command at once. He immediately summoned his most trusted old eunuch and whispered the instructions into his ear. The eunuch nodded solemnly, carefully tucked the talisman close to his chest, and under the cover of night and chaos, slipped away like a shadow, heading toward the cold palace. Meanwhile, inside the cold palace, it was dark, damp, and filled with cobwebs. The queen had been dragged in roughly by a few gruff servant women sent by the ox demon. Her hairpins were askew, her robe dusty and torn. She looked tired and frail, but her eyes were sharp and unyielding. The servant women stood with their hands on their hips, shouting at her, spittle flying. Don't act so high and mighty in here, your majesty. The great ox king wants you to reflect. If you dare say again that he's a demon, we'll make sure you regret it. The queen gave them a cold, sweeping glance, but said nothing. She walked to a cleaner corner of the room, sat down cross-legged, and closed her eyes to rest. She knew arguing with these fools was pointless. She had to conserve her strength. She had to wait for her chance. Night deepened. The women guarding her grew drowsy and slumped against the door. dozing off. Suddenly, from the corner of the room came a faint rustling sound, almost too quiet to notice. The Queen's eyes snapped open. She turned to look and saw that a few bricks at the sealed dog hole in the wall were slowly being pushed aside. Through the narrow gap, a thin but steady hand reached in holding something tightly. It was the talisman of the mysterious lady. At the same moment, a voice barely above a whisper floated in old familiar. "Your Majesty." "This old servant comes by the Emperor's command. The mysterious lady has heard his plea. You must take this. When you see rainbow light in the sky, shatter it at once. It's a sign and a shield. Do not forget. Do not forget." The hand withdrew swiftly, and the bricks were carefully put back in place. The Queen's heart surged with joy, but she kept her face expressionless. She calmly clutched the smooth, warm talisman and hid it inside her sleeve. Then she looked up toward the tiny barred window of the cold palace. Her lips moved silently. "Lady of the 9 heavens, my life, His Majesty's throne, the safety of all Qin, we entrust it all to you. Let us set aside for now the anxious king and his ministers waiting in the ancestral shrine, and the Queen silently clutching the talisman in the cold palace. As for the blue ox demon, it was having the time of its life. Having driven out the real king and routed the palace guards, the creature now considered itself invincible. At that moment it was sprawled across the dragon throne, swaying drunkenly with a wine cup in one hand and 2 trembling concubines in the other, both forcing smiles through their fear. Its massive ox eyes were half closed as it hummed to itself in a slurred tone. "Moo, moo. Being emperor's not half bad. Fine wine, pretty girls. All mine, hey." But just as it slipped deeper into drunken bliss, boom! Without warning, a deafening thunderclap split the sky above the palace. It was as if the heavens themselves had been torn open. From the rift poured a flood of brilliant rainbow light, cascading down like a divine waterfall. Wherever the light touched, the demonic aura vanished instantly. Even the lingering flames the ox demon had conjured sputtered and fizzled out with a sharp hiss, as if snow had fallen on boiling oil. The rainbow light was gentle, yet it carried overwhelming divine force. The entire palace shone like a world made of glass, every corner illuminated, every shadow banished. A sacred purifying energy swept through the air, washing away the corruption. The blue ox demon squinted in pain as the light stabbed into its eyes. The alcohol in its brain seemed to evaporate in an instant. It gave a startled roar, flung the concubines aside, and staggered outside to look up. And what it saw made its blood run cold. High above the clouds, descending on a billowing rainbow cloud, stood the mysterious lady of the 9 heavens. She wore robes of flowing starlight and feathers, her silhouette glowing with divine brilliance. In her hand was a 7-star sword, shining like ice and starlight. Her gaze was cold and unflinching, filled with righteous wrath. "Sinner," she called, her voice like thunder rolling down from the 9th heaven, shaking the palace to its foundation. "Do you recognize me now?" The ox demon staggered backward in shock and rage. It knew now that today would not end well, and its beastly temper exploded. Its eyes turned blood red as it bellowed, "Mysterious lady, I've heard your name even back in the heavens. But if you dare meddle in my business, don't blame me for being rude." With that it roared and began to shed its disguise. Its face twisted grotesquely, shifting into a massive, snarling blue ox head, complete with flaring nostrils and dagger-sharp teeth. It threw open its mouth, whoosh, and spewed a thick cloud of black, poisonous mist. It reeked of blood and rot, swirling like living ink, roaring upward to swallow the goddess whole. The mysterious lady narrowed her phoenix eyes and let out a cold snort. "Such petty tricks, how dare you flaunt them before me?" With a gentle flick of her wrist, she raised the seven-star sword. There was no thunderous blast, no roaring wind, only a single stroke of moonlight, pure and sharp as crystal. A pale silver blade light, cool and clean like autumn water, sliced forward. It looked slow, but in an instant it had reached the heart of the black mist. Shoo! The thick, poisonous fog, which just moments ago seemed unstoppable, was torn apart like paper in a storm. The sword's glow cut straight through it, purifying it into nothingness. But it didn't stop there. The blade of light continued forward, arcing directly toward the ox demon's head. The monster let out a terrified howl and rolled away like a startled donkey, narrowly dodging the strike. The blade missed its skull by inches, but slammed into the thick golden dragon pillar behind it with a loud crack. The massive pillar split cleanly in two and collapsed to the floor in a shower of dust and sparks. The ox demon was still reeling from the near miss when, suddenly, crack, a sharp, crystal-clear shattering sound echoed from the direction of the cold palace. It was the queen. She had been watching that rainbow light rise into the sky, never taking her eyes off it. The moment it filled the heavens, she knew the time had come. Without hesitation, she drew out the talisman from her sleeve, and with all her strength, smashed it against the ground. Boom! The instant the talisman shattered, a shimmering barrier of rainbow light surged up around her, encasing her in a divine glow. From the outside, it looked like she was standing inside a multicolored crystal. The servant women who had burst into the room to restrain her were immediately caught in the radiance. Screaming in agony, black smoke rose from their bodies as they collapsed to the floor, paralyzed by the holy power. At the same time, that rainbow barrier resonated with the divine power above, as if heaven and earth had connected. The mysterious lady's eyes gleamed. She pointed her sword at the ox demon and shouted, "Demon, show your true form. No more illusions? Re-ag." The ox demon howled a shriek of rage, pain, and terror all in one. The stolen dragon robe split apart with a rip, unable to contain its growing body. The golden crown fell from its head. The stolen human face began to melt like wax under flame, revealing beneath it a layer of rough blue-black hide. Its limbs thickened, twisting into hooves. Its snout elongated. In the blink of an eye, the monster was fully exposed, a monstrous blue ox, taller than a house, eyes blazing like bronze lamps, nostrils spewing white steam, and a suffocating aura of raw demonic power pouring from its body. Its horrifying appearance sent the nearby eunuchs and maids fleeing in terror. Some even fainted on the spot. "Monster, you brought chaos to the palace and harm to the innocent. Your crimes deserve no mercy." The mysterious lady no longer held back. The seven-star sword in her hand erupted in a blinding blaze, transforming into 7 brilliant streams of starlight. They shot out like heavenly chains, weaving into a net of divine power that wrapped around the raging blue ox. The beast roared and thrashed wildly, smashing into pillars, walls, anything it could, but the star chains only tightened, sinking deep into its tough hide. No matter how it struggled, it could not break free. The more it fought, the more the divine net constricted, until even its mighty limbs were forced to the ground. With a graceful wave of her hand, the mysterious lady summoned a magical object, a purple gold gourd, engraved with ancient symbols of yin and yang. It floated before her, glowing with sacred power. She pointed its mouth at the bound ox. "Be sealed." A golden beam of light shot out from the gourd and locked onto the demon. The ox's massive body suddenly convulsed. As if crushed by an invisible force, it began to shrink, folding in on itself, turning into a streak of blue light. Whoosh! In a flash, it was sucked into the gourd. The mysterious lady quickly capped the gourd and sealed it with a divine talisman. Faint roars and thuds echoed from within, but they soon faded into silence. The rainbow clouds slowly dispersed. The sky returned to calm. Silence fell over the palace. The smoke cleared. Only wreckage and wide-eyed survivors remained. The barrier around the cold palace dissolved. The queen stepped out, her face pale and weary, but her gaze calm and strong. She had survived. At the ancestral shrine, the doors creaked open. The king and his ministers peeked out, terrified at first, but when they saw the rainbow glow vanish and felt the demonic aura lift, they finally dared to step forward. When the king saw his queen alive and unharmed, he burst into tears. He ran to her and threw his arms around her, sobbing, "My love, you've suffered so much. Thank heavens you're safe. You're safe." The queen, too, wept with relief. The gathered ministers and surviving servants knelt on the palace floor, facing south toward the temple of the mysterious lady, and cried out as one, "Our deepest thanks to the mysterious lady of the 9 heavens. May your divine grace protect us forever." High above the clouds, the mysterious lady floated quietly. She glanced down at the people's survivors now bowing in reverence, and at the scorched palace gates, the fallen guards. She sighed softly. Then, slowly, her figure began to fade into the light. Only a faint voice lingered in the breeze, echoing through heaven and earth. Blessings and curses do not come uninvited. It is the heart of man that summons them. Revere the heavens, respect the earth, and no demon shall dare to disturb your peace. And so, the great chaos, stirred up by the mischievous blue ox set, loose by none other than Iron-Crutch Lee, finally came to an end, thanks to the divine power of the mysterious lady. As for the blue ox sealed inside the gourd, what fate awaits it? Will Iron-Crutch Lie descend to the mortal world, take responsibility, and reclaim the troublemaking beast? Well, that is a story for another time.